cape.
Welcome, Wargamers, to my new series called To Truly Excel, where I'm going to talk all about Stormcast Eternals as an army within the game. Longtime viewers will recognize this idea from another series that I wanted to start called Making a Beast Lord. However, I got burned down on that army pretty darn quick once I painted my 80th model. And so I actually kind of put that on pause. I do want to revisit some ideas because now that Snitch book is out, there's some cool things going on there. But I want to kind of keep this centered to whatever army is really interesting me. And right now that is Stormcast, without a doubt. So ultimately, if you didn't watch Making a Beast Lord, what this is going to be is me talking about the faction that I play, the experiences I have, talking about how various units do, battles reports that I've done before, as well as talking about stuff like tactics I want to explore, painting, modeling, everything that has to do with Stormcast Eternals. At some point, I will get some guests in and we'll interview them and ask them what makes a great Stormcast player and that kind of stuff. But in this first one, it's always awkward to do the first one of a series because you have to kind of get people caught up to where you currently are, and that's what this episode's about. Talking about how I came to own a Stormcast Eternal army, because it kind of came out of nowhere if you were following along with me. Kind of came out of nowhere, and then what kind of my plans are for it. So as a lot of you may or may not know, I actually sold off my Beast of Chaos because I need a more elite army to travel with across the country. And I got into a poll on Patreon. My patrons are awesome. They're very supportive of me and my hobby ADD-ness. And they just really find it hilarious and poke fun at me, which is all in good fun. So I actually chose to do Skaven Scryer specifically. They're the big war machines, Storm Fiends, very low model count. At least it can be if you don't go heavy with Acolytes. The thing is that when I jumped into Skaven, I grabbed a whole bunch of some Scryer stuff with Carrion Empire for sure, and then a bunch of Pestilence stuff, and then a few things that are kind of like Clan Verminous, like Clan Rats and that kind of stuff. And what I got myself in this trap of, I started painting Scryer, and I realized I didn't really actually enjoy playing them. I don't care for the Warp Spark token thing. Such low model count army, when they all die so easily, it just wasn't really my style. And so I was like, okay, well, this is not a loss, it's whatever. We'll play Pestilence, because I have a bunch of stuff just that, you buy the Pestilence box and it could be a Warp Lightning Cannon for Scryer, that kind of stuff. Had a bunch of Pestilence stuff, and I do enjoy their playstyle more, but I just got really burned out painting a ton of Plague Monks. And so then I put myself in this weird position where, okay, I've painted a ton of Scryer, and I've painted a ton of Pestilence, right? About, maybe 1,500 points of each, but because of the way the keywords work and their battle line and all that kind of stuff like that, I can't actually run a 2,000 point Skaven army. It was very disheartening to spend that much time painting well over 100 models right now, and I don't have an army to show for it. Well, there's a whole lot of events coming up locally, and I was like, I want to participate, and I want to bring a painted army. The last event that I went to, that I talked about with, I think with Jack online, basically I brought an unpainted Grand Alliance Chaos. I did pretty well with it. I really enjoyed it, but it just irked me that I didn't have a painted army. I was like, I paint so many models. We did the math, and I painted well over 600 models last year. It's like, how do I not have a fully painted army? That's kind of embarrassing. So at the same time, as I was having that kind of illumination, a local guy was selling off his Stormcast. He basically bought, here's what I think happened. I think he got into the game with Soul Wars and maybe Tempest of Souls, and then somebody else was selling off their Soul Wars-ish set. He snagged that and a few other things, and so he had this colossal Stormcast lot for $250. It was dirt cheap. I mean, for the mass stuff, it was well over $600 because it came with a KR multi-case and all this kinds of crazy stuff. So I snagged that for the purposes of reselling online, but I was so burnt out on painting Pestilence, I was like, I need a break. I need to treat myself to something fun, and so I actually, grab a model here, started doing the teal scheme from the Celestial Vindicators, and I fell in love. I'm going to throw some pictures up here on the screen so you can actually look at the work that I've done in detail, and I'll just talk over it. But really what happened was, it was a split-second decision to be like, I need a painting break, and then as I was painting them, I just started cranking out unit after unit so quickly, and I realized, I painted 10 Sequitors. Okay, that's, 240 points, and it took me forever to paint, I think it's close to 60 Plague Monks, or 40 Plague Monks, I think, to do a similar point value. It's just so quick. The paint scheme was a lot of fun to experiment with, and I was just having an absolute blast. And so I got to a point where I was like, well, it'd be so much faster if I just want a painted army to take to events. Why not just crank out these Stormcast? And so that's exactly what I did. If you are a fan of the channel, you can go back and watch them, but I did a bunch of hobby hangouts. I took an entire week, I did no lore videos, and I said, we are going to paint an army in a week. And we actually, I say we, me and many folks who were in the chat along with me most of those days, it went from, I think I had like 300 or 400 points painted when I declared that we were doing that, and by the end of it I did have a fully painted army. 2,000 points, match play, totally legal, Celestial Vindicators army. So if you combine all the stuff that I had done before that week, it was a full army in 2.5 weeks. I went to an event at the Man Overboard Games with my full painted army. I'd only played it once before, actually, before going to the event. I came in second for Best General, I came in second for Best Painted, and I won the Favorite Opponent vote, and it was an absolute blast. I'll leave a video link to that down below. And here's the thing, this is usually the point where I would grow tired of an army and sell it off. Traditionally, I build it up to where I have a fully functional, playable thing. I go on rerolling ones a few times with it, and then I sell it off or trade it or just give it to Jack to give me something that's unpainted. That's kind of our thing. But there's this weird feeling in my chest where I think this is what contentment feels like. For the first time, I'm not looking at other future projects. There's some specific models that I want to paint, like specific. I want to paint a Slann for Seraphon, but I don't want a Seraphon army. You know, just little projects here and there, but no army is gripping me. I'm not feeling any pull to go anywhere else. All I want to do is keep painting Stormcast the way I've been painting them. I'll go ahead and throw my list up on the screen right now. This is what I have basically painted. It's my 2K list that I took to the Man Overboard Games event. But in addition to that, the thing that I'm really excited to paint is Vanguard stuff. If you aren't familiar, the Vanguard are kind of like the scouts and snipers and all that kind of like special tactics stuff within the Stormcast army. You don't see them played a ton outside of the Vanguard Raptors, which is the sniper unit, incredible in the game. But things like Hunters or Impaladors, which are very highly mobile units that have a lot less punch to them rather than compared to some other stuff. But they have the most dynamic models, I think, in the range. The Paladors look incredible, as do the Hunters. And shortly after I finished assembling that first 2K list, a local guy, another different person, was selling off the Blight War half along with another box of 10 Hunters. So I snagged that up, and so with all of that, and then I went and bought the Vanguard Star Collecting box, I now actually have enough to run, I think, 1,000-point Vanguard list, pure Vanguard, just the Aquilor, Raptors, Paladors, and Hunters, and that should be pretty cool. I feel comfortable with the list that I have now. Sequitors are incredible, Evocators are great. No one will argue those points, but they aren't the things that really interest me when it comes to Stormcast. Like, for example, Ride the Winds Etheric is my favorite rule in the game. I love like the teleporting through stuff and like going through the warp kind of thing. I think it's super cool. The Lord Aquilor's ability to teleport units, especially Raptors, around the board for sniping shots or charges that people don't see coming. I love that kind of stuff. Mobility in interesting ways is what I love about Age of Sigmar the most. And so basically having an entire faction of like that, right? That's just like a playground for me. I know they don't have the hardest punch, but the hardest punch doesn't win games, objectives do, and so being able to dart with 9d6 dice across a board with a unit of Paladors can win games. So that's kind of where I am. You see the sacrosanct stuff that I got, and I painted it just because I owned it. It's not the stuff that really interests me, although the robes look super cool. The stuff that interests me is Vanguard. I'm going heavy into that right now as we speak at the time of this recording. And then as far as rules and stuff like that, I'm just getting my feet under me. One of the problems with Stormcast Eternals, as someone who has played many factions, if you followed me for the last 3 years, I've played almost a dozen armies, is the fact that they have so many options that it is, you can get into this like analysis paralysis where you're not sure what to take. And so what I've decided to do, in the beginning at least, until I really get comfortable with units and synergies and that kind of stuff, I'm just taking the Celestial Vindicators Stormhost, period. It picks the command trait, the artifacts, all that kind of stuff. It's all picked for me. I like that. I mean, it makes my life easy to do that. I understand it's not the best, but honestly, it's pretty good because tell you something that I have found that I absolutely love is the Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger. I make him my general, so then my Sequitors are battle line, of course. And then if you give him the the Celestial Vindicator's artifact and command trait. Obviously, he's a general, he has to take the command trait. And then the command ability where he gets +1 attack to all his melee weapons. Him and that Grip Charger can shred something. They went into a unit of 20 Dryads to clear it off an objective, and he did it like a one-man wrecking crew. So you can do some cool stuff there. I really think there's a lot of potential with Celestial Vindicators, especially with stuff like Paladors, where anything that has more than one melee profile, you spend a command point, it gets +1 to both weapons, including the Griff Charger itself. So that's kind of the plan I'm doing right now. So like I said, this is kind of a part vlog, I guess you could say, as I kind of grow and experience throughout the army. Starting small, I have my 2K list that I feel comfortable with. It's not backbreaking, it's totally beatable. But to kind of keep the, amount of information, the floodgates kind of close a little bit as I try to learn the army, I'm going to keep it simple and just stick with my Storm host. That being said, if you are someone who wants to follow this and see how I learn an army and play different games with that, I'm not going to limit myself to Celestial Vindicators. I paint them that way because I like it, but if I go to a tournament or an event, that's where the gloves come off and I just choose whatever I want. You know, they can be Anvils of Hell to Hammer. I don't care. I feel no guilt about it. And certainly, even in my narrative games, I don't feel obligated to take that Storm host. I can make my own thing. So it's just, it's more just for ease of learning than it is like a rigid, I'm a narrative guy, so I painted them this way and I play this way. At some point here soon, I will do a paint tutorial for how I do white. I kind of want to try out the new contrast paints to experiment with that kind of white as well. They had on their Tau model. But other than that, that'll do it for this one. So again, this was just an introduction to the army that I'm playing, how I got here from the models that I used to play and that kind of stuff, and the fact that I'm loving Stormcast and I have no intention right now. Nothing else is exciting to me. I'm sticking with them for the foreseeable future. In future episodes, like I said before, you can look for specific tactical talk, interviews with other players who play Stormcast. I'm going to get Jack from Rerolling Ones on here at some point to talk about a shootcast, and we'll have a great time there. So thank you all so much, and happy wargaming.